So tonight I would like to use the words of two very important people. One maybe more important than the other, and then you get to pick who you think is more important than the other. The first is John Wayne. So that's first. And the other is Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, who, if you don't know, is the immediate past head rabbi of England, who is the most smartest, really irritating, brilliant person on earth. So, often quoted on this bima by myself and Rabbi Khan, because it's, you look at a passage and you think, I know what that means, and then you hear what he interprets it, and you think, oh, why do I not? I'm not able to do that. So, ever. It's just so. So I'm gonna borrow from both of them. I'll start with John Wayne, and then we'll move into Rabbi Sacks. So John Wayne had a lot of famous phrases, actually, but perhaps the most famous phrase is courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. That was one of his very famous quotes. So I want you to keep John Wayne in your mind as we sort of go through a little bit of what the Torah portion this week is talking about. So again, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. And so keep that in your mind as we sort of go into and talk about the Torah portion this week, which is called Vayishlach. And so, and was sent out and sent forth, some variation of that really, really good Torah portion. And so, if you recall from last week, there was this uncomfortable situation between Esau and Jacob, where, there's a birthright that's taken, and then there's a blessing that's stolen, and then and then Jacob decides to run away, and it's sort of an uncomfortable situation between the brothers. So this is what happens in last week's Torah portion. There's some discomfort, if you will, between Jacob and between Esau. And so the Torah portion picks up this week, picking up on that same concept from last week with the discomfort between the two brothers. And it's mostly uncomfortable for Jacob because he hears that Esau is coming towards him with 400 men, and which he presumes is an army, and he's nervous. And so in his nerves, he's, for lack of a better term, and this is what Rabbi Sacks says, he's terrified. So he's terrified that his brother is coming to get him, because he was sneaky, and he took one would say, he took the birthright, he took the blessing from Isaac, their father. It's uncomfortable. And so all these men are coming towards him, and Jacob is nervous. And so he makes 3 official preparations. He prepares like an appeasement, like this sort of system in which he can front some gifts, maybe over to Esau to say, hey, bro, what's up? Why are you so upset? I don't understand why I'm sending you a bunch of stuff. So there's some appeasement. There's some prayer from him. And then ultimately, he actually prepares for war, because there might be a brawl between the two brothers. And so he inevitably has to prepare for this war. And he makes preparations for this war by separating and dividing his camps up between the children of Rachel and the children of Leah. He divides them up. And so he's ready for this war, and he's very anxious, even though he's set up. He's all set up, but he's very anxious. And there is this very famous part in perhaps all of Torah where Jacob sends forward all of his kids, and then it says he was alone. And in his being alone, he wrestles with someone or something until the break of dawn. It's a stranger, essentially. This is a very famous part of the portion, and if the very first part of the Torah, and if you know that in this wrestling ultimately comes the name change that happens between Jacob and then his new name, which is Israel. Good. All right, you're with me. All right, excellent. Good. Just to make sure everyone's here. So there's this name change that happens, but not until this very tense moment that Jacob has. And so he's anxious. He's alone. He wrestles with this angel, with the stranger until the break of dawn. And so the commentary says, who was the stranger? This is Rabbi Sachs. The text calls him a man. The book of Hosea, which is in the book of prophets, says he was an angel, and the other sages say that he was an angel, like a guardian angel of Esau, actually. And so Jacob himself seems that it's actually God, because he names the place, I have seen God here. So it's either God, it's either an angel, it's either a man, it's either some kind of guardian angel of Esau. My personal interpretation is maybe it's himself. He's fighting within himself. He has an internal struggle that he's having. But this is a very famous part of the Torah with this struggle that's sort of happening. And so, Rashbam, which is not Rashi. So Rashi is the greatest commentator of the commentator of all time. His grandson, this guy named Rashbam, has another angle on this. And he says he actually brings in some other characters to help us out, which is always nice to bring in extra characters. So he says, okay, we have Jacob over here. He brings in everyone's favorite guy with the big fish. Jonah. Yeah, Jonah. Good. Good. Thank you for the one person who said Jonah. Thank you. Excellent. Good. Note it wasn't a whale, because that's not right. It's Jonah and big fish. Thank you. Good. Excellent. So we have Jacob, we have Jonah, and we have Moses. Have you heard of Moses? Moses. Excellent. Good. No one raised their hand, but you smiled, so that means that you probably have heard of him. Excellent. So they're these three characters, and so the interpretation, he uses these other characters to help explain what Jacob is going through. He uses Jonah and he uses Moses. And he says this. He says that the episode relates to these two different people because they too were a little apprehensive. So in the story of Jonah, which you know, it provides the key understanding he says, for the whole story, which is that Jonah sought to escape from his mission to go to Nineveh, to warn the people that the city was going to be destroyed. And Jonah fled on his boat to Tarshish, but God made the storm, and then he was swallowed by the big fish, thank you very much. And then he was spat out, and then he goes back and he follows the rule. But he's reluctant. If you have, so this is where the commentary says, Jacob is sort of like this situation that happened to Jonah. Then goes on to say, okay, what about Moses? So if you recall Moses, when Moses finds out that he's about to take the people out of Egypt, what does Moses say? No. It's I was slow of speech and slow of tongue, and you got the wrong guy, and I don't want to do this, and this is a bad idea, and I don't think it's, no. Wrong guy. Maybe you're thinking of Moses. I'm Moses, different guy. No, sorry. And so he is reluctant because at the burning bush, there's this message delivered to him from God, and he says, no thanks. So Jonah says, no thanks. Moses says, no thanks. And maybe so Jacob, according to this commentary, is in that same reluctance. He is nervous about fulfilling a mission he has to complete. What's the mission he has to complete? What's Jacob's mission?
Reconciliation.
Okay, so he has to reconcile with his brother, but what's the bigger mission? Which he's already told by God. God already tells him what the big mission is.
He's got the covenant.
He's got the covenant, exactly. So the weight is on his shoulders. It started with Abraham, it went to Isaac, and so God shows up to Jacob and says, it's you, it's not your brother. It's not Esau, it's you. Judaism will come from you, not from Esau. So the burden on him is, it's a pretty big burden to be the sort of one of the forefathers of us sitting here, right? And we find out, fast forward, no surprise when we're in the ending, we are the children of Jacob, we are the children of Israel. It's the same, right? Because Jacob and Israel has the name change in his Torah portion. And so he's apprehensive. And so here's where the commentary comes in. He says this is not physical fear. It is the fear that comes from a feeling of personal inadequacy. Who am I to lead the people, asks Moses. Who am I to deliver these people, asks Jonah. And who am I, Jacob says, to be this person who has to carry on the entirety of the Jewish people? Why is this on me? And so it's not a physical fear, it's this idea of inadequacy. And so then Rabbi Sachs pulls in Marian Williamson, which we might not know her, but you know her quote, which is, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And so this is where he pulls in this concept that maybe it's this inadequacy that all of them felt, that Moses felt, that Jonah felt, that Jacob is feeling in this moment, this trepidation leading up to seeing his brother, and then understanding that post his brother, he is carrying on all of Judaism. And so as Jews, we might feel that consciously or unconsciously, some of us take flight from certain things. But who are we to be, but this is Jonathan Sachs, who are we to be God's witness to the world, a light unto the nations, or role models? If even spiritual giants like Jacob, Moses, and Jonah sought to flee, how are we as human beings supposed to carry on the work of the Jewish people? If the three of them were nervous, how are we supposed to do it? If Jonah was nervous, if Moses was nervous, if Jacob was nervous, how are we going to do this? It's just little old me over here. How am I going to figure this out? And so, this is again, Rabbi Sachs, be not afraid of greatness. That is why God wrestled with Jacob. Moses and Jonah would not fully escape. We may not be born great, but as Jews, we have greatness thrust upon us, is what he says. And that's what Marianne Williamson says, and that's what Rabbi Sachs says. And so, for we are the children of the man who was given the name of one who wrestles with God and with men and prevails. Ours is not an easy task, but what worthwhile mission ever was, asked Rabbi Sachs. We are as great as the challenges we have the courage to undertake. We are as great as the challenges we have the courage to undertake. And if at times we feel like running away, we should not feel bad about it, because so did the greatest people who are our forefathers and our foremothers. And so to feel fear is fine, Rabbi Sachs says. To give way to it is not. For God has faith in us, even if at times, even the best lack faith in ourselves, in all of us. And so I invite you on this Shabbat to think of Jacob, to think of the fear he was feeling, but to think of how he overcame that fear and ultimately becomes Israel, the one who struggles with God, and that we take on that plight, that we take that on as Jews, to know that we also are these God wrestlers, constantly battling for good and for what the Torah teaches us and what Judaism teaches us. And so, like I began, I will end with, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.